Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Intruder Theatre in the Making podcast. I'm your host, Remi Rachuba, and thank you so much for coming back. Now, just a little bit of a reminder, you might remember in my previous episode, I think episode 11, because I forgot to talk about it in episode 12, I talked about Patreon. So for anyone who would love to support me and support my podcast and chip in literally for less than a coffee, it would help me a lot with the hosting company's costs, and it's because of them I can do the podcast. So you can have a look at my website, remirachuba.com or intruderplay.com, and you can find all the links, and I would also put the links in the description of this episode. So thank you so much. Also in episode 12, you remember I was talking about the end of the journey. I mean, playwriting journey, because I think now with the podcast, it's going to take a little bit of a different turn, going to be more, I think, proactive in terms of what I actually did and how I went about certain things, and there will be more drama. Yes, more drama to come on the podcast. Everyone loves the drama. What happened? Why did it happen? So you can expect it from now on. So 2017 was this year where a lot of things happened, as I was saying. The BBC Writers' Room shortlist, then I translated the English version of the solo piece into Polish, so I had two versions. I had a director on board, and that was Amanda, my very good friend. So actually 2017 was really full on, very big things happened, and as I was saying before, we were really gearing up for the Fringe 2018. So in order to understand what happened in 2018, I need to give you a little bit of a background of what was going on in my private life. So as you might remember, I said that I had been working as an interpreter, but also I felt in 2017 that these opportunities were drying up. There weren't as many jobs, and I really needed to boost up my income. And the only thing that I could think of was doing more training and maybe doing more court interpreting. Now, it's very interesting because when I talk to people about interpreting, everyone always says, oh, you do like court interpreting, police interpreting. And until that moment, I wasn't. Most of my income came from NHS, so medical appointments, hospitals, social security, benefits, mental health, some legal, tribunals, and also telephone interpreting. So I wasn't doing court interpreting at all. Now I thought, okay, if I want to do more interpreting, and I want to get on the National Register of Public Speaking Interpreters to be able to, actually understand how the whole system works, I need to do some training, and I need to pass this exam, which is called DPSI. Now, this is a huge exam, and you actually take 6 exams, and you need to prepare for it. Now, I could have taken there was different options. So you have DPSI in health, you have DPSI in, I think, legal, and I could have taken DPSI in health. I mean, specializing in, medical interpreting. But then I felt, it's not going to change much because actually the industry is full of agencies, so it's not going to change a thing. And if I want to do more, I need to do more court interpreting, so I need to do more training. As I was saying before, I always think that training isn't going to harm me, it's always going to help me. So I enrolled in a preparation course, and that was at Merriward Centre near Holborn, and I started attending it every Thursday for 6 months, especially as the exam was to take place in June, and it's quite an expensive thing. The exam, it costs about £700, so I really wanted to make sure when I take the exam, I actually, I don't lose the money, because then that's it. You still need to retake the exam and pay. So that was on the agenda at the very beginning of 2018, that, okay, I need to, earn more money and then, look after myself. Which also meant that when I attended the course on a Thursday, I didn't earn any money. So I needed kind of another job to, to make up for that Thursday that I was attending my preparation course. And also in 2017, I started looking for different opportunities, and one agency that I belonged to sent me to a children's home for autistic children, and that was in Ealing, and I lived in Islington. And for some of you who know London very well, and some of you who don't know, Islington is in the east of London, and Ealing is in the west of London. And actually, it took me 1 hour and 15 minutes to get from where I was living up to the home, one way. So it was quite a long commute. But when that opportunity arose, I was really, really happy about it, because I thought, great, I can do the course, I can do interpreting, and I can work at the children's home as a support worker, something that I did in the past. I mean, in the past, I had been working as a teacher, but I was looking for some kind of a non-teaching job, and it was a perfect opportunity, because that job was from 2 or 3 in the afternoon till 10 in the evening, so still I could do some interpreting in the morning. So that was already in January and February, so I was already very, very busy with these things, and I really was hoping that, I hope nothing else happens, and everything will be fine, and I'll be able to pass the exam and work, and it's going to help me. And I actually saw an increase in my income as soon as I started working at the children's home for autistic children, which was great. So that's a little bit of a background for you, just to understand what was happening back in 2018. Now, coming back to Intruder. So, as you might remember, I was talking about receiving Lane's List, this e-newsletter with various opportunities. And then me thinking of Fringe 18, I once saw an opportunity there by a theatre company called HighTide. And for some of you who know and some of you who don't know, HighTide is this very dynamic and vibrant new writing company that nourishes and helps and looks after emerging playwrights. So I have heard of them before, and they were looking for 4 plays to support and to showcase at Fringe 2018. So when I saw it, I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is something for me for sure. So I sent my submission and my play, and I did it very late. I remember it was very late in the evening. I don't know whether I came from the children's home, and I still, I remembered that I needed to submit it and fill in the application and answer all the questions. And I remember it was very last minute. That's what I remember about that particular submission. And of course, I told Amanda about it, who was very excited, and that was it. And I didn't really much think about it. I was so busy with interpreting and the preparation course and studying, and literally studying and going to Ealing, that I didn't have time to think or ponder on what was really going on. And then a week after that, HighTide contacted me and they said, Remi, we would like to invite you for an interview, which was very, very exciting. But then on the other hand, I thought, oh shit, wow, we need to prepare for it. So I told Amanda, who said she would come to London for that interview, because it's kind of like an interview where you go and meet the team. And the way it works is that out of all the selections, they choose 20 pieces or 20 companies, and then they interview them. And then out of the 20, I think that's what it was, 20, they select 4 that, they would like to put forward for Fringe, 2018. So all of a sudden, on top of my studying and traveling and commuting, now this thing. But I was very, very excited because I thought, wow, it's great. That's definitely going ahead. Fringe 2018. That's we're definitely going to do it. Amanda was very, very hopeful and also very excited about what was going to happen. And then I remember I was speaking to Amanda and I was asking her, I said, Amanda, do you actually think we should have anything prepared for that interview? I mean, some kind of a document, things like that. And Amanda said, no, don't worry about it, Remi. We're just going to go there and we're going to speak to them, which I thought was great. But then, on the other hand, I did a little bit of research and I did speak to a couple of people, and everyone said to me, Remi, have something prepared. I don't know what that is, but, have some kind of a document. You can hand it in, have something written. So in the meantime, I was preparing a little bit of a document, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on. So a day before the interview, Amanda came, and Amanda lived in Glasgow, and she came to London for that interview, and also I think she came to visit her boyfriend. And then we met up in the evening. We went through the whole thing. We talked about it. It was really great to see Amanda, because by that time I hadn't seen her for some time. We went through a couple of things. We talked about the piece, which was great. And then we arranged that we would meet maybe half an hour before the interview. I think the interview was around, 11 or something like that. And the following day, the day of the interview, I had a job in the morning, so I went. I think it was some kind of a benefits assessment. I went to it, and then I went to Old Street where we were to meet, because HighTide, I think they're based over there. And then I remember I was there at the coffee shop, and Amanda wasn't there. And I phoned her and she didn't pick up the phone. And I was just thinking, oh God, where is she? So I waited and waited, and then 11 o'clock was approaching. So I went to HighTide and I couldn't get hold of Amanda. And I lived in Islington, as I was saying, and Amanda was staying in Dalston. And these are relatively, it's 20 minutes from Old Street by bus. So it was 11 o'clock. We were supposed to go to that interview, and Amanda isn't there. So I phoned her. She wasn't picking up the phone. Stephen Atkinson, who was the artistic director, he came downstairs. He was he's been very, very kind and nice. And I was telling him that we're sorry, but, Amanda isn't here. Maybe we can wait. And what they did was they offered us 40 minutes. So he said, don't worry about it, Remi. We've got 40 minutes. So, whenever she comes, let me know and it will be fine. So then it's 10 past 11. She is not there. I finally get hold of her. And then it turns out that the taxi driver couldn't find the place. So no, and they were not in Old Street. They went somewhere completely different. And then Stephen came downstairs again, and I told him, listen, I got hold of Amanda, and she is somewhere else. And Stephen was nice and said, don't worry about it. When she finally comes here, you know what, we will talk. And then it's 20 past 11, she isn't there. I was just really thinking, no, oh my God, because I hate coming late. I think it is so unprofessional. I've always hated coming late, and that was an interview. And finally, she came. It was, I think, 23 past 11 or 25. I mean, the taxi driver couldn't find it. I mean, it really snowed in that day. Really, it was really very, very cold, I remember. But you know what? It's an interview. So for anyone, I don't have any excuses. If you have an interview, you are there on time. So she came, I think it was 25 past 11. We went for that meeting. We literally had, I think, 15 minutes. We sat down, and the first thing they said to us was, we loved the piece. 4 of them. There were 4 people. And I was so delighted to hear it. That was the very first thing they said. We didn't even say a single thing. Of course, we said, we're sorry about that. Amanda was sorry. And after they said it, they asked us questions about the solo piece. And it was mainly Amanda who talked about her vision and what she thought and who she kind of would approach to do the piece and the project. And because she had already been established on the Scottish scene, she had her regular collaborators, these were quite high profile people, so she talked about it. And then of course I chipped in and I talked about the piece and stuff like that. And that was really it. And we left that meeting. And I remember when we were downstairs and I was going to the children's home because I had my shift, I think that afternoon, or I was going for another interpreting job, I said to Amanda one thing. I said, we were so unprepared. And what I meant by that was, I don't know whether I knew about it before, or I didn't know about it before, or I didn't want to know, or foolishly I was so naive. It kind of was this moment where I was slapped in the face after that meeting, when I kind of got sober. I don't know what that was, because prior to that meeting, I felt that, we're going to go for that meeting and we're going to make it sound like, we've got everything going on, the fringe is in the pipeline, we're going to do it, and we just need your money, on top of it, to help us with the project. But the bottom line was, we didn't have anything in place. I mean, anything. We had no money. I hadn't spoken to any creatives. There was no partners. I mean, nothing. And I really don't know what I was thinking going into that meeting. Now, when I'm thinking about it, and it's 2021 and that was 2018, I think I was kind of thinking that miraculously they're just going to give us money. But they didn't. And that email came a week after our interview, and they said, we loved meeting you, but we felt that we would be the only people that would be giving you money, but actually it should be the other way around. Our money should be like an icing on the cake. And that was true. We didn't have anything in place. We tried to make it sound like we did have things in place, but no, we didn't. And it dawned on me right away downstairs after that interview. And I think for anyone who goes for any meetings where you pitch an idea, where you talk about funding, when you talk about money, I think you always need to have really clear idea what's happening with your project. So if I were to do it again, I would definitely have that document, because as I was saying, I had the document prepared. I handed in during the meeting with our CVs, mine and Amanda's. So I would definitely have that, but I would have more. The document is one thing, and on the document I would have info about the project. I would have all the people who are involved in it and their CVs, and not only the writer and the director, but everyone. I would have details about the venues. I would have details about funding, whether I had any funding, if I had any funding from, for example, Arts Council England. Of course, they wouldn't give you money for any festivals or the Fringe, but any kind of funding that you have in place or that I was planning to do, whether I was planning to do any crowdfunding activities, whether there was any in-kind support in place, whether I had any partners, whether I had any confirmed venues. Everything would need to be in that document, so that when I go to that meeting, I want to make it as easy for them to make their decision in my favor, because you want to get the money. And maybe I would include some photos. Maybe I would share some info about some rehearsed readings. But I think some people may say, what, yes, it's all on the website, and I have it in Google Documents or on the Drive. I think it's fine, it's great, but I think there was something about this old-fashioned physical, page, or you kind of touch it and you browse through it. Sometimes the internet may not be there, or the internet connection that may not be working. Someone may say, what? Well, come on, Remi, give me a break. The internet may not be working. I have this idea because when I went to interpret at Great Ormond Hospital, I love this idea of these people going with these trolleys and carrying all these files. And I often wondered, and I often asked, I said, why would they have these trolleys with these piles of files? And someone said to me, what? Yes, everything is on the computer, but you never know what's going to happen, and it's always good to have this backup. So that's why we have it. And I thought, wow, it's amazing. It's great. So I'm old-fashioned in this way that I think. And of course, I shared with Amanda, the news that we didn't get the money, and we were both gutted. I remember sitting in the pub with her before she left London. She was going back home to Scotland, and we talked about it, and we shared our vision for the solo piece. It was sad news, but then there was nothing we could do. And that time where I was sitting with Amanda was the very last time I saw her, because a couple of days later I found out that she passed away tragically. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened, but that was the moment where I knew that I wasn't going to go to Fringe that year with my solo piece, but also it meant that I was back at square one. I didn't have a director, I had no funding, that's it. It was like, wow. I went to Amanda's funeral a couple of weeks later and came back to London and didn't much have time to dwell on it because I was saying that, I was so busy with my preparation course and then working at the children's home. So I didn't have time to think about what was going on, especially as there were other things that were coming my way. It turned out that in April I needed to move house because the place where I was staying in Islington was being refurbished. So then all of a sudden in April I needed to look for a new place, and I wanted to live in Ealing. So that was another thing. And so April was crazy busy. I mean, insane. I found a beautiful place in Ealing in May, and I moved house in May. Still preparing for my exam, and the exam was coming, and that was in June. So as you can imagine, it was just mental. It was literally mental. So my exams came. I took them, 6 of them, middle of June. And I passed them with merits and distinctions, which I was really, really very happy about. But also around the same time, another job happened. A job that will completely change the way I think about social media. And I would talk about that particular job in another episode. But before I finish that episode, I want to focus on something completely different, and I want to come back to Intruder, because you may be thinking, okay, well, but what happened to the solo piece? So I'm back at square one. I'm thinking, I wasn't thinking, because the only thing I was thinking was court interpreting. So when my exams finished, I kind of had time to rest and reset and think, okay, who do I want to approach for my solo piece? And I was thinking of a couple of people, and I was in touch with them, and I sent them my piece. But as I was saying before in previous episodes, people didn't respond. That meant they didn't connect with my solo piece. And it's fine. Not everyone is going to connect with your work. And one of them was Marcus Montgomery Roche. And I knew Marcus from the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. He was studying directing a year after me. And we worked together on a rehearsed reading that I talked about in episode 2 or 3 at the Travers Theatre. He was a stage manager there, and we kept in touch. Marcus came to the revival of Lucia de Lammermoor at the end of 2017. So I also sent the piece to him. That was in July of 2018. And then we kind of arranged to meet in a coffee shop in Good Street in the centre of London. And I was kind of thinking, you know what, maybe when we meet, maybe I can ask Marcus if he wants to direct my solo piece. But, questions like that are very uncomfortable, because you don't know what people are going to say, and are they gonna agree, or are they gonna say no? And I remember sitting with him and talking to him about, my solo piece, and I kind of thought, I think he would be ideal for it, because he is Scottish and French, and I really wanted a Scottish director. Maybe he would be perfect for it, especially, that he comes from Scotland. But you never know until you ask. And I remember sitting over there and, chatting. And then, at some point you need to ask that question. And I remember I went to the toilet and I came back and we were still chatting. And then all of a sudden Marcus says, well, why don't we do it? And that was really it. And I didn't need to ask the question that I was thinking of asking. Kind of like, he made it easy for me, because it meant that, yes, why not? Why don't we do it? So, of course, we talked about, we were very clear at the very beginning. We said, listen, we can give it a go. We can try. We can arrange maybe a reading or two. And then see what happens. And if we like working with each other, that's fine. If we don't, That's fine. I think it's always great to be very, very transparent about certain things because you never know. I did tell him that, I would do my best to pay him, but if I don't have the money, I don't know what to do. And he said, it's fine, let's see how it works. And I was very, very happy about that meeting, and I went home and I knew, wow, after all the drama, well, there is some light in the tunnel. So that was looking very, very promising. And yes, and the rest of 2018 was the period that I never saw coming, to be quite honest. But I'm going to talk about it in the next episode. Well, not in the next after next, because in the next episode I'm going to have an interview with Marcus, a remote interview with him, so which I think is going to be very, very interesting. We're going to talk about the piece, and then coming back to the podcast, and me telling you what happened at the end of 2018 and this exciting period that's going to be in the following episode. So, as I was saying, more drama to come in episode 14 and 15 and then 16 of the podcast. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay well, stay safe, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.